All right. Hi, Kendara. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
Doing fine. Am I pronouncing your name right?
Kendara, yes.
Okay.
Yep, you
All
got
right.
it.
Wasn't quite sure. I thought it could have been Kendare, but how many people say Kendare?
It's about a 50-50 split. And then sometimes I get some Kendras in there, which are also fine with me.
You are a number one New York Times best-selling novelist. Congratulations on that.
Thank you. It's weird. Yeah.
Looks like you've got a lot of books out. How many books do you have published right now?
I feel like One Girl in All the World is my 14th, but I could be wrong. It's in that ballpark, though, not that far off.
Okay. Now, are all of your books various genres or you cross genres? Yeah.
Yeah, I would say I go back and forth most often between the horror and fantasy genres, but I've also written a little bit of true crime-ish. I've written some Greek mythology stuff, and occasionally I just do literary. So, yeah, yeah. I read a lot of different things, and I write a lot of different things.
I see the word mythology, and I'm curious, what's the difference between mythology and fantasy?
Well, I think when they say mythology, they're just trying to encapsulate a particular pantheon of mythology. So, my books in particular, I wrote a trilogy called the Goddess War trilogy, and that focused on Greek mythology.
Okay, so does mythology have to be ancient to qualify as being mythology?
I don't think so. Especially right now, we're seeing a lot of different mythologically inspired things, and it's from all different types of cultures. Some older, some ancient, some a little bit newer. So
Okay, the reason I ask is because there's about 125 million different genres out there now, and I think sometimes people get confused with what they actually mean. So I'm just trying to make a clarification on that one.
yeah, yeah. It's hard. A lot of books fit under multiple genres and multiple categories. So, like, where do you put them, really?
Does that upset the publicists or the
Uh,
publishers?
I don't think so. I think the publishers and the publishing teams have done a pretty good job of, at least for my books, putting them in the most appropriate spot to make them easiest to find for the people who will want to read them and the lovely booksellers and librarians who have to shelve them.
Is it more typical now that authors will be doing cross genre writing? Because it never used to be. It seemed like people stuck with whatever genre they got famous for, and that's always
I
what the publishers wanted. It seems like it.
And from a career standpoint, honestly, I think it's a pretty smart move. Like when I pick up a Stephen King book, I kind of want it to be Stephen Kingy, if that makes sense. I do enjoy when he kind of dips out and does something a little more literary, a little quieter, like Stand by Me, and that he does that equally well. But when you think of Stephen King, you do think of the master of horror. So if you can build a career in one genre, that's amazing. I do think we will see more authors kind of hopping around a little bit. And it's been true since the beginning in writers of YA. YA, I think, is a little bit atypical in that the publishers have just allowed us all free reign. Like, you want to write Twilight and then you want to write aliens, that's fine with us. Do you want to do a dystopian and then a contemporary? Go right ahead. So, within our category, particularly, there's a lot of freedom.
I suppose it's the dilemma of a great actor being typecast into one role and never being able to break out of it. And perhaps as an author, you might get tired of writing in the same genre over and over again. I don't know. What do you think?
Personally, I can only speak from my own experience. So I am not one of those writers who can kind of choose what we write about. I only get a good idea about once every 2 years. So regardless of what genre that idea is, I have no choice but to go with it. And so far, my publishers have been willing enough to follow along with me. So I'm lucky. But I can't imagine being trapped in a genre that I didn't want to write in and just being pressured to do more of the same just for commercial reasons. But at the same time, it is a business and I get it. Sometimes people are just good at doing, like, they're just very, very good at writing mysteries, or they're just very, very good at writing romance or writing literary. So, hey, have at it. More power to you.
Do you like the process? I mean, do you approach it as a business? Do you wake up every morning at 9 o'clock and sit down and say, okay, today I'm going to write? Or do you have to be inspired to get going?
There's like an adage in the writer's world that, like, you know, amateurs wait around for inspiration, but writers show up and do the work. But I personally have found that only a combination of inspiration and work ethic works for me. If I'm on deadline, yeah, I have to get my butt into this chair in front of these computers for a certain number of hours a day, just to make sure that I don't miss my deadline. Because left to my own devices, I am pretty lazy. I would like to just write a couple days a week, here and there for a couple of hours. So I approach it kind of both ways. After the book is finished, I have to shift into kind of like business mode. Like, how can I market this? How can I help the book find its readers? How can I help to promote it? But while I'm writing, it's just, I get real weird and artistic about it. So it's both.
Have you always been a writer? I mean, is that what you have made a living at for your whole life, or did you do something else?
I've always wanted to be a writer. When I was a kid, I read voraciously. My mom used to take me to the library, you know, every week, and we just load up on picture books. And I was always writing in school. I was always like doing short stories or, you know, just little vignettes here and there when I could. But it never felt like a career possibility, if that makes sense. Like, it felt like, oh, sure, I'll just go be an astronaut. I'll be a writer. I'll join the NBA and be a center forward. No, I can't. There are just some things I didn't feel like I could do. So I went to college for finance.
Okay, a lot of people have done that, but they end up coming back to writing.
Yeah, I just thought, well, okay, maybe I can't write, but let's not live on my parents' couch forever, so I should get something practical. And then after a few years in that, I asked my parents if I could live on their couch again and try to make a go of the writing. And luckily it worked out.
Oh, well, that was smart. That was smart. Risky, but smart. Sometimes you have to take the risks in life, though. Okay. One Girl in All the World is the latest book, and I think that's the one you're here to promote. I see Buffy the Vampire Slayer in big, bold letters on your bio. Now, I did not watch that show. I remember when it was on. So I don't know the premise of it. Was that the inspiration for this book?
Oh, yeah. This is a continuation of the Buffy the Vampire Slayer universe. So it's officially sanctioned and officially licensed by Disney, who owns the rights to Buffy now. This is their first foray into the Buffyverse in novel form. And it's meant to pick up about 17 years after the series finale of the show.
It's been that long since it was on?
It has.
Oh,
yeah.
God.
The first book was set to release on the show's 25th anniversary. Like, it's been a long time.
Okay, so, I mean, by the title, I'm guessing that she killed vampires?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. Yes.
Right.
She was indeed a vampire slayer. So for people not familiar with Buffy the Vampire Slayer, it's on Hulu. And I think it's on Disney Plus. You can totally binge it now, all 7 seasons. The premise is a young woman. In every generation, there's a young woman who is called to be a slayer. And she alone has the power to fight against the demons, the vampires, and the forces of darkness. And her name this generation happens to be Buffy, a very unlikely hero's name. And she's a tiny blonde cheerleader type who can throw you around a room. It was just a fantastic show. It was so smart. It was so layered. And I think that's why it's endured all this time. Like, Buffy fandom is still there, and it's still just as big, if not bigger, than it ever was when the show was on.
Okay, so you said that your book is licensed to Disney?
Yes, yes. This is a Disney Buffy book.
So they plan on using your work as the next series? Are they going to restart the series?
Wouldn't that be cool? Like, as a Buffy fan, I would, die. But
oh, it hasn't been talked about.
No plans to do that right now.
Okay.
Just it's we're kind of just doing the novels right now. They're also releasing a bunch of Buffy prequels. There's a Spike prequel. There's a Buffy alternate universe book that came out last summer. And I think they're doing a Tara prequel next summer. But I would be over the moon if someday we did get more Buffy on our small screens.
Well, I think that's sort of the first step, though, right? I mean, if they license your work, that's kind of...
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, okay.
And it was their concept. So it was the official Buffy team's concept that I then wrote. So hopefully, I mean, you never know. I don't know. I haven't been privy to any of those conversations, but I hope that there have been conversations, because for fans of the show, the original characters who are included in these books are Oz, Spike, Willow, and those actors, Allison Hannigan, James Marster, Seth Green, are still amazing actors who are active today. And you never know, you know, maybe a spinoff will happen. They just released that 90s show. I mean, these things do occur.
Yeah, sure they do. Did they come to you to write the book?
They did. They approached me, I think it was, like the spring of 2020.
Oh, okay.
And she said, hey, do you want to write Buffy the Next Generation? And I said, yes. It's the easiest answer I've ever given.
Well, they must have been familiar with your other work then and thought you'd be a good candidate for that.
I think they must have. And I reference Buffy in one of my first books, so I'm sure they knew that I was a fan.
Oh, well, that's great. That's exciting. Hopefully that pans out for you. Okay, we've got a couple of minutes, about 2 minutes to be precise. And so where does she go? Is the new character in One Girl in All of the World, she's Buffy?
No, actually, no. The new character, so this is Buffy the Next Generation. So it centers on a new Slayer and a new group of Scoobies, as they're called, which are the Slayer's helpful friends, usually consisting of different supernatural beings. So our Slayer in this generation is actually Frankie Rosenberg. Fans of the show will recognize that last name as Willow Rosenberg. This is her daughter, and she's grown up with Willow, and she's grown up around her Aunt Buffy, so she's not new to the whole demon vampire universe. But when the books start, she's 16, she's just living her life, and then suddenly she's called to be the next Slayer when an attack happens at the annual Slayers convention, and Buffy and all of the other Slayers are presumed dead. It's a rocky start for her.
Oh, so, okay, because I was going to ask you if Buffy made a cameo in the new book, but she makes a cameo to die?
She doesn't even, she dies totally off screen, like she disappears totally off screen. So whether or not Buffy ever gets to make a cameo, we'll have to see. There's one more book coming after this one.
She could come back from the dead, I suppose.
That is Buffy tradition. She's come back many times before.
Well, it sounds really exciting, and I'm happy for you. We do have to wind this down. Do you have a website that you want to give out?
Sure. I mean, I have my personal website, KendareBlake.com, but if you want to interact with me or talk to me about Buffy, I'm also on Instagram at Kendare Blake, and I'm on Twitter at Kendare Blake. Okay.
Are there links to your social media from your website?
Yes. Yep.
Well, Kendare, it was nice meeting you. Nice chatting with you. Best of luck with this, and I'll keep an eye out. Hopefully we'll see something from Disney.
Thank you.
Coming
Maybe
soon.
We'll make a Buffy fan of you yet.
Maybe. I might have to put that on my short list. We'll see. All right. Thanks again. Best of luck.
Thank you.